Hi, shalom, shalom. This is an invitation to sing Yismehu v'Malachutecha from the Musaf Shabbat Amida with us. But before we start singing the song, let me share my screen, as we can do with Zoom, and show you the words. And make a note here, follow my cursor, that it begins Yismehu v'Malachutecha. So Yismehu is the verb that says, be happy, be full of joy. It's a simcha. When you enter the realm of Shabbat, the Malchutecha, the kingdom of Shabbat, Shomrei Shabbat, those of you who are keeping the Shabbat, the Korei Oneg, and calling it a delight. And Steve and I were talking a little bit before about these two phrases, Shomrei Shabbat and Korei Oneg. And I'll take the first one. Shomrei Shabbat makes a reference to the version of the Ten Commandments that has Shamor. You might remember that in the two versions of the Ten Commandments, one in Exodus, one in Deuteronomy, we have two different verbs for Shabbat and what we're to do. One of them is Shamor, and the other is Zachor. Zachor is in Exodus, Shamor is in Deuteronomy. And of course, what comes first here is Shomrei Shabbat, the reference to the Deuteronomic verb, Shomer Shabbat, Lishmor Shabbat, to keep Shabbat. And that has to do a lot with the laws and the particulars about how one keeps the Sabbath, refrains from doing work. And a lot of the laws about the Sabbath, whether it's the refraining or the actualizing the Jewish laws about the Sabbath, are very specific and legal, and make you someone who you can say is a Shomer Shabbat or a Shomeret Shabbat, one who keeps the Sabbath. So then what is Zocheret HaShabbat? What does it mean to remember Shabbat? Well, we get a little bit of a sense of what it really means. And Ziv was telling me before that they learned this in school.
So we spoke in middle school about what the Oneg was really referring to, and you have the first part of Shomrei Shabbat, the don'ts of Shabbos, like not using electronics, but that you haven't really completed the full mitzvah of Shabbat unless you also uphold the Oneg Shabbat, which are the meals that you have on Shabbos and the Kiddush and spending time with your family and just enjoying the essence of Shabbat, and that you can't have the Shomrei Shabbat without the Oneg Shabbat. You need both the don'ts of Shabbats and also the do's. You need to celebrate and also refrain from doing certain activities that you would in the week.
Because it's so nice to think that when we think about remembering the Sabbath, what do we really want to remember about the Sabbath? How much of an oneg it was, how much of a delight it was. Yes, we could say we kept all the specifics of the laws, and sometimes they even can feel a little bit oppressive. To tell you the truth, anybody who keeps Shabbat knows, like now and then, somebody leaves the light on in the wrong place, and you're really not going to turn it off. That's not such an oneg. That's not such a delight. But if you've got this other side of delighting in the Sabbath, then it can be really sustaining. But does delighting in the Sabbath actually allow us to put aside and set aside all the shmirah, all the laws and the rules? And how do you really have a Sabbath for someone who feels a little bit like the rules are too much and just wants to do the Zechoret Yom HaShabbat, the remember Shabbat or the Oneg of Shabbat? Like, what did you guys talk about that in your
We just
classes?
spoke about needing to balance it, and the reason why the second time that the Ten Commandments were shared, that there's a certain interpretation that Shamor and Zachor were both said together, is that you can't really just do Oneg Shabbat, or you can't just do Shomer Shabbat. In order to really fulfill Shabbat, you have to have the Oneg and you have to have the Shomer. So you can't really have one without the other. It's a package deal.
Well, that's definitely a wonderful package deal. When we allow for the framework or the scaffolding of the Sabbath laws to create the space we so need and desire for the kind of family experience or community experience that leads to the oneg, the delight, then I think we are really living out what Shabbat really offers us as a community and as individuals. So we're going to sing this, I think, more meditative version of Yismehu v'Malachutecha. Be joyful and feel the delight, the oneg of the Shabbat, and you're keeping it in whatever way you're keeping it. We've been in this strange time keeping it in so many different ways, and probably in our homes where we're not used to thinking about our homes as the first and foremost spots for the Sabbath. But of course, we were reminded of the very wonderful reality that Shabbat in the home is a core experience of the Jewish tradition. It roots us in a way of calculating the times of our lives in a very Jewish rhythm. And so fill your home with a little bit of song here. Join us with the words or just with the tune. We'll sing it through twice so that maybe after listening once, if you don't know it yet, you could join us. Yismehu v'Malachutecha Shomrei Shabbat v'Korei Oneg Amikadeshei Shevi Kulam Yismehu v'Yitangu Mituvecha Ubashvi ratzita bo v'kidashto chemdat yamim oto karata zecher l'maseh v'reishit zecher l'maseh v'reishit Yismehu v'Malchutcha Shomrei Shabbat v'Korei Oneg Amikadeshei Shevi Kulam Yispehu v'Yitangu Mituvecha Ubashvi ratzita bo v'kidashto chemdat yamim oto karata zecher l'maseh v'reishit zecher l'maseh v'reishit. May you find the deepest joy in both the Shmirah and Zechira, in the keeping of the Sabbath and remembering the Sabbath and calling it a delight.